Welcome to NFP Ocean's Meet the Member series. In this video, our founder Kerrie Sheaves is talking to John Drury from Business Mentor.
Hi John, it's great to see you. Great to be talking with you today.
Thanks, Kerrie. Good to be with you too.
Fabulous. Well, let's get into it. You have plenty of experience working with both businesses and the not-for-profit sector, particularly in the role of a CEO with NFPs, but working also with leadership in the NFP sector. And in particular with those mid-size organisations who they're still trying to establish themselves, and they've got often volunteer board members rather than professional board members. Their CEOs are trying to find the best way to lead their organisation, and they're also trying to work out, how do I work with the board? How do I deal with volunteers myself? Tell me a little bit about how your experience yourself is helping you in how you're mentoring organisations like that.
Okay. My background, I started a not-for-profit and grew it to quite a significant size, and established the board and everything like that. And we had about 1,000 members involved, serving about 3,000 people every month, and about 40 staff paid by the end, and about 150 volunteers that were involved. So I've worked with both paid staff and volunteers, and then developing senior managers in the midst of all that. So that's my own background. I left that 17 years ago, and I've been working as a business. I ran a business for a couple of years, then I'm working as a business mentor the last 15 years, mostly with businesses, but with here and there with not-for-profits. And then I've usually been engaged to work with a CEO who's either needs someone to debrief to, and then we discover the kind of issues that are going on. Sometimes their issues are downwards with their team, and empowering a team, getting the best out of their team, paid and volunteer. Sometimes their issues are upwards, learning how to manage a board, and sometimes the board has been the problem, and other times the CEO has been the problem. So it's learning which is which and how to help them navigate that. I've done that about 5 or 6 times over the last few years, quite successfly, on every occasion. Even one where I was invited in by the board to mentor a CEO that they weren't happy with, and we helped them come to a really much better arrangement than they were having. So that was an interesting assignment.
Yeah, and I suppose, in that process, what have you found has been the most important part of, or I suppose, successful point in mentoring busy business owners and busy not-for-profit leaders over that period of time?
I think one of the things I help CEOs and business owners too in a business, help them think. So often busyness gets in the way of strategic thinking or thinking clearly. And so you end up doing the next thing or the next 20 things that are on your to-do list, rather than looking at, okay, how do I step back from this and get a perspective that enables me to do the most important things that are going to take the organization forward. I think that's where I help CEOs a lot, just getting that perspective, helping them think and come up with clear strategies as to what they're going to do in the next month. And then sometimes I've helped do strategic planning, facilitation as well with CEO and an executive team. So clarifying like the 5-year plan and then the 1-year plan, and let's look at how we put that together.
Yeah, it is, you're right. Having the space to think, the space to consider strategy, think through the implementation, just even think about how you're going to deal with various people situations. You often don't get a lot of that because there's so much pressure all the time.
Sure.
And when you're in a not-for-profit space, there's often a big shortage of resources. So ideally, you'd like to be able to delegate to people, but there's not always people to delegate to. So just trying to get enough, opportunity to make good choices in that about your priorities is a challenge. How do you think CEOs that are obviously walking, that NFP life, how do you think they can maximize their leadership role so that they're able to grow as leaders, but also to be able to empower and grow their teams?
Busyness is not always productive. So it's very important that often doing less is actually going to be more effective if you've thought about it more. So not to say that people don't think about what they're doing, but but to work out what's most important that's going to get me where I want to go. So having that longer range plan worked out, and then empowered, ideally the board's giving the backing, and there's a clarity around the plan, and the CEO and their team are free to implement the plan. And then getting that longer range perspective helps you work out what you've got to do this week or this month. So it's amazing how people get sidetracked or get busy with the stuff that comes up, and it seems it's really important because it feels urgent. So you got to, like Stephen Covey said back in the 80s, you got to learn how to discern what's important and not necessarily urgent in order to help you navigate the way forward. Otherwise, the urgent can be a horrible tyranny that sort of overrules everything, and you end up going around in circles or going nowhere good. So yeah. I think that's the role of an external mentor, to come in. I'm not emotionally involved in the day-to-day. I can care and have empathy, but I'm not worried about all the little details that can stack up and start to feel like they're really important, and cut through some of that and work out what really is important here, and let's do that, and let's focus on that. It's a freeing up exercise, I think.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, one of the things I have seen in practice myself is you may get boards that are not very mature. They're trying to become more governance focused, but they can get a little bit too operational, particularly if they have a few members who themselves aren't mature board members. They're volunteers. They're probably very talented people. They are bringing certain capability or knowledge to the board, but they can often hijack those priorities by throwing in something they think is important. We should do this. We should, prioritize that. Yeah. And, for CEOs in that position of, okay, we've got a pretty clear plan. This is what our focus is. To then have something lobbed at them, which they know is probably not the priority. How do you think they can navigate managing that expectation and not upsetting people on their board, but also saying, well, this is actually where our priorities are?
Well, you've got to negotiate well, I think, and learn how to define what your role is. Is the CEO in charge of day-to-day, or is the board? And so learning how to talk about that and get it clear. And ideally, the board is giving wisdom and guidance for the bigger picture, and the CEO is handling day-to-day and is empowered by the board to take decisions and make it work. Getting that arrangement working well can be challenging, I know. And so sometimes board members who are volunteers, not paid board members, are involved because they have a heart and a passion for whatever the focus of the organisation is, and that can be great, and it can get in the way. So at times, if they've got their own agendas. So it's really important to negotiate those things clearly, and renegotiate them probably every year to make sure it's really clear. And sometimes the CEO has to push back, but to learn how to do that in a way that's not going to cause offence or make it awkward longer term. So again, an external person who can maybe not mediate, but help guide that conversation is what I've found has been useful in my role.
Yeah, I think having just someone like that you can, even as a CEO, just bounce off, how do you think I should tackle this? Because I don't want to upset or offend this board member. They're very passionate and they're really, they've got a lot to offer, but they're just they're sidetracking us into the weeds of something that just isn't really going to get us anywhere, and it's just going to create work for my team that I don't need to be doing to check a box. Like how to manage that well, I think the challenge, particularly if those board members have been around for a really long time. If you get legacy board members who are seen as, the wise woman or the wise man in the room who, has held the vision for a really long time, but aren't necessarily the right people to be moving into that
compromise is
role.
Needed sometimes. You don't want to be offensive or offended or lose a job over something that's not really crucial.
Absolutely. So what would be, I suppose, the best way to ensure that a senior leader is able to take full ownership of their role and stay on track with obviously the organisation's vision and goals?
Well, like I said before, to negotiate well and get it clear. It's amazing how job descriptions aren't necessarily set around outcomes. I think they've got to be set around outcomes rather than duties. And there's duties that are involved and expected, but these are the outcomes that we're delivering, rather than this is a list of things you're meant to be doing, and the outcome is not necessarily clear. So, and then being empowered to actually achieve the outcome in whatever way you as a CEO, and then find the best way to do it. I think you've got to have that freedom and negotiate for that freedom, and then give that freedom to your team. If you've got an executive team, you don't want to control them. Empowering leadership is about releasing people with clear guidelines and a clear job with outcomes that are defined, rather than controlling people and keeping them under thumb somehow. That's really, that kind of organization doesn't work well. That kind of leadership doesn't work well. So I'm all about empowering people and helping leaders empower those under them, and helping a board to empower the CEO, and learning what that means. Because some people are fearful of that and want control. So getting rid of the fear base and putting in some trust, and learning what is in the way of trusting, and eliminating that so you can build that trust, and this other relationship can really flourish.
You mentioned trust there, and I think this is probably, a really important factor, even just in engaging with a business mentor or a business coach. If we're in a leadership role, being able to connect with and trust someone who's able to mentor you, I imagine that requires that individual to be willing to open up, to be vulnerable. But I suppose, what are some of the ways that someone is then ready to be mentored, ready to be coached?
Yeah, that's a good question. I usually in negotiating my role as a mentor will be talking about, okay, what is it you're hoping for from this relationship, and are you willing to do things differently or look at things differently? Because if I'm just there to kind of help them feel good about what they're already doing, then there's not much point in that. So if you're willing to think about things differently, as a mentor, I'm never there to control or tell them how to do their job, or what their vision should be, or anything like that. It's about helping them be most effective as they can be in their role, as a spokesperson, as a leader in the organization, and in the way they lead and serve people, ideally with the client in mind. Whoever the organization is serving, they can get lost sometimes. But we've got to make sure the organization actually is serving and creating the outcomes that it's set up for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I suppose, there's no defined period of time necessarily that you would work with someone as a mentor. I suppose it could be for shorter engagements, or just
it varies. It varies a lot, depending on what the need is. Sometimes somebody's been through a big challenge and they just want someone to help them get their confidence back, and that might be a 6 months, monthly for 6 months. Often it's a 12-month engagement reviewed annually to help them. Or I've come in and worked with very specific things to helping them put a plan together and then get the leaders on board with the plan, and that might be a 3-month assignment from my point of view. So it varies a lot depending on the issues and depending on the chemistry's right and everything. Sometimes I become part of the team and a useful person who's like an external member of the team. Other times it's an assignment that's short. It's got a time frame to it, and I'm in and then I'm out and done, and that's all that's required. But it varies depending on the need.
If you're a board and you're thinking to yourself, what are some ways that we could be supporting our CEO in their role? Is there some flags or clues that you might be seeing as a chair or as a board that you're saying, I think our CEO may need some mentoring support? What would they be?
Well, if there's a fair amount of overwhelm, because busyness can lead to people get overwhelmed from time to time in any role, no matter how capable they are. But if there's an emotional tiredness or exhaustion that turns up every now and then, or over a period of time, seems to be developing. I think that's time the person obviously is getting underneath everything. Would be valuable for them to talk it through and step back a little bit and clarify how they do their day to day. Or if they're not as organized as you would like, and you feel like they're not as productive as you would like, and they're talented but they're not as productive, sometimes just some personal mentoring and how to organize your day, organize your week, and focus on the main things can be useful. So that's another trigger or another indicator. Or if they're not getting on well with their team, I went into one organization and this CEO, very passionate about the cause they were involved in. Small team, but he was continually having issues with the team because he really had no empathy, was not good at building relationship, and the team was struggling to relate to him. So if they're not great, or if they've got issues with their team that pop up more than once, maybe they need some help with learning how to lead people and to get the best out of people.
So you mentioned obviously, someone who's very passionate, in the NFP sector. This is a space where quite often you have people who have begun an organisation because they're very passionate about it, but there comes a point in time where it needs more than what they can do by themselves. And of course, they have to start building teams underneath that. And their board starts to mature and is moving towards governance. And quite often you'll get the issue of a founder's syndrome in that mix, where the founder has exhausted what may be their natural capability that they came in with. In that space, I suppose, we start to see boards get really nervous that the founder, may have to be replaced. But it may be a matter that actually what they need some mentoring coaching about how to transform themselves into a different type of leader than what they were before.
Yeah.
Is that a space that you've done work in? What have you seen in that?
Yeah, I've worked with a couple of organisations with the founder, and they had reached limits and was becoming overwhelmed and a bit frustrated with the board because she wanted the board to do more, and the board were already busy and she was busy. So there was a lot of frustration in there. So helping her think about that and work out the future of the organisation. Sometimes not-for-profits have a season that they're effective. They actually merged that organisation with another one not too long after that, and that we had some discussions. We had a whole day with the board at one stage and the CEO, thinking through some of the options and looking for direction. So it's not necessarily a sign of defeat or that you failed to merge the organisation with another one that's doing something similar, and that was the best outcome for this organisation. So that it's just a matter of having the conversations, and they can be tricky when emotion gets involved, and someone who's founded something and it's like their baby. It's very important to them, and it's hard to let go, either to bring a new person in. Often, sometimes they can grow with it. Like if they've reached their limits, if they're willing to learn, and they've changed their role and grow into a better leader. Other times it's best for them to move aside and somebody else come in and cause the organisation to flourish. But again, helping them understand the process and the options, and to do it in a way that minimises the emotion and it helps them think clearly. I think that's important, and that's something I could help with. Yeah.
And I think more and more that that's needed, that when you're in a sector which is always fighting for the next dollar, the need to be open to things like consolidation, to look at how we collaborate, being willing to be changeable in that, so that you can take on new things. I suppose we're now in an age where we're embracing AI and all sorts of different demographics in our workforce, and changing ways that people give or connect. So it's not a simple, cookie cutter thing. It's taking a lot of energy from leaders, so their willingness to get the help they need to become the leader they need to be for that organisation, or to help find the leader who is the next leader to take it where it's going to be, and be proud of the path that it's taking is, a great outcome. this is, an area where I think not-for-profit organisations struggle to prioritise spending money investing in people and their development, and particularly the further up the food chain you go, as close to the CEO role, often they put a lot of time, money and energy onto developing or training or coaching the other members of their teams, even around things like workplace, psychological safety and all those things. Yeah. But it's the leaders at the top that are often assumed that they're fine and that they don't need help. It's not necessarily true. So if you've got an organisation that's thinking, well, we do really want to invest in our leaders, and we do want to make sure that, as our board and our CEOs work together, that it's working well and everyone's productive, what should they think about when they're thinking about investing in having help like mentoring services like yours?
We talked about some of the signs that might be needed before. I think if any organisation, the culture is set by the key leader. That's one of the roles of a key leader, of a CEO, or whatever they call it, whatever their title is to help set that culture and to embody it and bring the energy that you want in the organisation. So no one's more important to invest in than that person. And either in leadership skill development or in having someone to help them think about strategy, or to debrief some of the challenges and the load that they're carrying, because you're carrying more load than you realize in these roles. And burnout's something, people can be high functioning but burning out emotionally. So it's not necessarily obvious to externally. Usually internally, you're not great, but you don't necessarily know yourself. I've been through a burnout experience many moons ago, and I was still functioning very high level, but I was losing compassion. I was losing my drive and my energy for people, and I couldn't relax. So I actually hid in my work rather than relaxing and enjoying a day off and replenishing. I forgot how to do that. And so you can be blindsided by it, and then suddenly something happens that's a result of them not being on their game, and that can be dangerous. So it's important to address some of these things and invest in your CEO, I would think, and then they can invest in the leadership team that they've developed. If they're doing well, they can invest in others and empower them.
Absolutely, so right. Well, John, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I would really encourage any of the leaders out in the NFP sector space to really start thinking about how you're investing in your CEOs and your leaders, as well as your board and the dynamics between them, but also how you're building into them to ensure they're well supported. Reach out to John, find out more about what he does, check out NFP Ocean. There's plenty of resources there to assist you as well. Thank you so much, John.
My pleasure, Kerrie. Thank you.
You can find out more information about Business Mentor and the resources and services you need to grow your NFP at www.nfpocean.com. NFPs can join us for free.